You can't just focus on one thing if you want to live a long time.
Can you talk about the longevity mindset?
The body's a battery and we can charge it up with electricity and with light and with oxygen. If you are not moving your body on a regular basis, you're kind of shorting yourself from a mitochondrial standpoint.
Hello, I'm William Morgan, president of Parker University, and I have a very special guest today, Ben Greenfield. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Bill.
So he just had you speak on our stage here. It was great. You experiment with yourself and you look for outcomes. And there's things that we've looked at, like in biohacking. You're a biohacker. When we look at biohacking and aging, what's some of the myths and reality that takes place? What are the things people think work and what things aren't really working?
When it comes to biohacking and aging, absolutely. There's some myths, some things that people waste a lot of time on, and other things that I think can really move the dial above and beyond what I was trained, like make myself feel old now, but like 20 years ago when I was getting my degree in fitness and physiology and all these things related to human biology, we learned a lot about exercise and we learned a lot about eating healthy, but we didn't learn a lot about the body as what I sort of think of as an electrical machine. And if you look at many biohacking technologies, many of them do indeed focus on that aspect of things. Now, real quick rabbit hole here, you asked about myths, and I think one of the major myths is that you can just fix all your problems with a supplement, right? There's just so many supplements and nutrients and powders and packets, and yes, many of them help, but you can't pop a pill your way to fitness and better health without paying attention to these other variables. So moving and eating healthy, but then what do I mean when I say technologies that I wish people were able to pay more attention to that have really worked for me? I'll give you 3 examples. One would be the idea that the body can actually be charged electrically. I talked about this a little bit from stage, but every single cell in your body operates at a specific electrochemical gradient across that cell membrane. A little bit negative on the inside, a little bit positive on the outside. And we can charge the cell up with electricity. Here at the Parker event, there are pulsed electromagnetic field machines, these mats or coils that you can lay on or wrap around a body part to charge the body up with that electricity. Even more, perhaps perfect, accessible, and free example would be getting the body in touch with the surface of the planet on a regular basis, swimming in lakes and rivers and oceans. All of this helps to recharge the body's battery. Another example would be light, particularly light from the red light spectrum. We, of course, get that from sunlight. We get all the spectrum from sunlight. But if you look at a lot of these red light panels, red light beds, wraparound red light devices, red light saunas, they're actually helping to upregulate activity of the electron transport chain in the mitochondria to help you to produce more ATP. And then a final example would be oxygen, right? We use oxygen to cause the electron transport chain to be able to produce ATP more readily. Many of us breathe in a shallow format. The fact that we in many cases are staring at a screen 3 feet above or in front of our faces or hunched out over a phone doesn't help with that much at all. But now there are technologies. You can exercise with oxygen masks. You can use a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, perhaps a more free and or almost free and easy and accessible method would be something I also mentioned from stage. You can tape your mouth at night so you breathe through your nose. All of these things would be considered elements of the biohacking world that go beyond moving well and eating healthy. I think even give you more effectiveness than just like popping pills and taking supplements. And it's this whole idea that the body's a battery and we can charge it up with electricity and with light and with oxygen.
So what's the role of mitochondria in regard to performance and aging?
So mitochondria are often called your cell's powerhouses. That term is so oft used that it almost annoys me a little bit because it almost sounds gimmicky these days. The little powerhouses of the cells, but they are actually in a way a powerhouse of the cell, meaning Electrons travel across the membrane in the mitochondria, and at the end of that electron transport chain, after interacting with certain protein complexes along that chain, the end result is that your mitochondria help to churn out adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the body's energy currency. If you are not moving your body on a regular basis, if you are not supporting your body with the type of compounds that help you to produce better and newer mitochondria, like polyphenols and flavonols and antioxidants and, even fermented foods and, a wide variety of herbs and vegetables and spices and more kind of like ancient ancestral foods, you're kind of shorting yourself from a mitochondrial standpoint. I mean, there are newer supplements out there like one I've heard a lot about recently, well, two actually, to NAD and urolithin A, right? They're sold as supplements, which is great, but I mean, you can activate your body's NAD through exercise, through a sauna practice, through fermented foods, through fasting. You can upregulate your urolithin A production by paying attention to your microbiome, right? Eating a wide variety of fermented foods, not eating in a stressed state. Taking care to chew your food properly, introducing dietary diversity. So this whole idea of the mitochondria is kind of based around the fact that yes, your cells have engines, and yes, you can support them from a nutritional standpoint, from a biohacking standpoint, from a movement standpoint. And it really is, if you look at maybe the hallmarks of aging, a lot of them are related to a degradation or loss of mitochondrial number, or mitochondrial density, or mitochondrial efficiency.
So how can we influence those?
There was, for the longest time, not a great way to really look at the health of the mitochondria, the efficiency of the mitochondria. I'm constantly testing and self-experimenting and trying all these new tests. And I did an interesting test a few months ago. It was called a me screen, and it was evaluating my mitochondria. And I had a really interesting chat with a doctor who developed that test afterwards, and was actually shocked at what might seem like a paradoxical approach when it comes to supporting mitochondrial health. But I think this is something that a lot of people in the health world need to hear. He said a lot of people are over-optimizing, or actually I think the exact word that he used was over-hacking, right? For example, the body responds really, really well to about 20 to 25 minutes of red light therapy. And then once you go above that, you can actually create excessive reactive oxygen species that can harm the mitochondria or inhibit the building of new mitochondria. Another example would be, something I also talked about a few minutes ago, oxygen. Yes, using a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, or even, breathing from one of these newfangled oxygen masks when you're exercising is good, but you wouldn't want to do that all day. And you wouldn't necessarily even want to do like an exercise with oxygen session and a hyperbaric session in the same day. That would be considered like over-hacking. You can also, of course, stress out the mitochondria from the opposite standpoint, exercising too much, fasting, and having nutrient depletion on too regular of a basis, right? So when it comes to the mitochondria, it's almost like this sweet spot, this Goldilocks zone of not using all these biohacking technologies too much, giving your body good nutrients without excessively fasting, exercising and moving the body without doing it excessively. And it's just like almost anything in nature, and especially the human body. We respond really well to work recovery cycles, to feast fast cycles, to, when you look at some newer forms of cancer management, to pressing and pulsing glucose. So the idea for the mitochondria is to push the body, but not too hard, to put it in as simplistic terminology as possible.
So a big part of biohacking seems to be hormesis, where you give a little bit of a noxious stimulus to create a positive effect. Is that true? And how do you use hormesis to enhance your health and prolong your life?
The idea of hormesis, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It actually is really fascinating. When I was talking about mitochondria, I talked about how we want to stress the body, but not too much. And that's a perfect example of hormesis in action. For example, we know that plants have plant defense compounds in them, and it's become very trendy in the diet world to avoid as many of these plant defense compounds as possible, right? Go gluten-free, go lectin-free, go oxalate-free, completely cut alcohol out of the diet. Like, all of these, yes, they're poisons or toxins in high amounts, but in small doses, introducing a wide variety of compounds into the diet exposes the body's cells to a wide variety of stressors in small amounts that induce an antioxidant release by your own body, almost like turning your body into its own endogenous antioxidant factory. We, of course, go out and buy antioxidants in powders and pills and supplements, but your body produces antioxidants. And one of the ways it responds to small stress that's controlled, almost like the Goldilocks zone of stress, is by producing more antioxidants. So if you were to subject your body to the stressors of heat, heat is a hormetic stressor. If I put you into a sauna for 3 hours, you would probably have cardiac abnormalities and electrolyte depletion and dehydration. But if you go in there for 30 minutes, your body gets super stressed. And then for the rest of the day, it learns how to adapt to that stress, regulate blood pressure, regulate heart rate. So, there's a detoxification effect, etc. Another example would be, eating a wide variety of plants and herbs and spices and not having a highly myopic diet. I know that diets like the carnivore diet or the paleo diet work for a lot of people. One of the reasons that they work is you're just getting rid of all the bad stuff, right? You're keeping things very simple. But in an ideal world, your microbiome, your gut, and your body should be able to deal with these mild plant stressors, unless you have some kind of a full-blown autoimmune disease. So in the plant kingdom, it's also called xenohormesis, xenohormesis, this idea that by having a wide amount of dietary diversity, you are subjecting your body to a wide variety of poisons and toxins technically, but the body, by learning how to deal with those, is actually it's experiencing increased cellular resilience that lends itself to better health span and lifespan.
Can you talk about the longevity mindset?
The way that I think about it is you can't just focus on one thing if you want to live a long time. You can't just eat healthy. You can't just exercise on a regular basis. Everybody knows you can't outrun a bad diet. But beyond that, the longevity mindset involves taking into account as many factors as possible that put the body into a state that is as supportive as possible to how we were designed to move and live. What does that mean? It means that we are paying attention to movement throughout the day, not just fabricated exercise in a little box at the beginning or the end of the day, but moving our bodies throughout the day. Back to what I was talking about earlier, eating a very diverse diet, getting in touch with the surface of the planet, having a relationship with sunlight, making sure that we're breathing and oxygenating our bodies properly, engaging in other stressors like heat stress and cold stress, in addition to something like plant stress and exercise stress, sleeping properly, having periods of time where we're relaxing and knowing how to create a supportive sleep environment. And then, of course, probably the most important thing, and even a recent Harvard longevity study that went for many years on hundreds of individuals found that one of the most important correlates for longevity was the quality of your relationships. I would personally say, as a man of faith myself, as a Christian, that it's not just the quality of your relationships with other people, it's the quality of your relationship with God. And so when we put all these things together, moving well, eating well, stressing our body with heat and cold, electricity, lights, air, and then good relationships and a good spiritual practice, to me, that's kind of like hitting the longevity mindset from all angles.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Bill.
You've been listening to Ben Greenfield, and this is Parker University.